leadership role. Maybe you are a woman in leadership and have found that being able to master emotional intelligence under pressure can sometimes be a bit challenging, especially when you know that there's aspects of being a woman in leadership that may be challenging by themselves. In this video, we're going to talk about emotional intelligence, especially under pressure. And I want to say this at the very beginning. Emotional intelligence is not only how we regulate our emotions, but also when individuals we're working with, are emotional as well. So this video is designed to help you think a bit differently when these situations come up, when emotions may be high with you or with someone else, and how you can navigate this under pressure as a leader. Now, emotional intelligence is something that impacts everybody, regardless of gender. This video specifically, I'm going to talk about how it can impact women and just a couple strategies that you can keep in mind as you're navigating these challenges. If you are not a woman in leadership and you're watching this video, there are some aspects of this video that will actually help you to be able to start thinking about managing emotional intelligence, not only within yourself, but also with people that you're interacting with. Now, if you are new to me, my name is Dr. Jacinta, and I welcome you to my amazing channel here in my amazing community. If you are one of my amazing subscribers, welcome back, friend. This channel heavily focuses in on advanced communication skills and strategies that will help you to communicate more confidently and concisely in those very high stakes, high pressure situations. If you want to be that person who has an unfair competitive advantage over everybody else in terms of how you communicate under pressure, this is the only channel and the best channel here on YouTube for you to subscribe to learn more information as it relates to this topic. Now, when it comes to emotional intelligence, let's talk about it. How many of you have been in a situation where you've seen yourself start to get really upset about something, and you've seen the person across the room become very upset about maybe information that you are sharing with them? Put it in the comments below. Let me know if that's ever happened to you before. Let me share with you a couple of strategies I want to share with you today, and then we'll dive more into these strategies in just a few moments. When it comes to emotional intelligence, specifically as it relates to this topic, the things I'm going to talk about, the strategy I'm going to talk about today, rather, are going to include: one, knowing your triggers; two, making sure that you're in a very good place to really listen to what's being said and changing your mindset there; three, making sure you're in a good position to not only listen, but be able to be very objective; and four, we're going to talk a bit more about the reality. You may experience some issues or some challenges being a woman in leadership as it relates to emotional intelligence. I want to say hello and welcome to those of you watching the video today. Let me know what part of the big, beautiful world you are joining from today. And if you've ever felt like you were going to get really upset in a conversation, or maybe you were the person that was delivering bad news, put it in the comments below. Let me know what happened specifically in your case. Excuse me. Now, when it comes to emotional intelligence, there's one part, the first part, and I may go into a little bit of a different order as it relates to the strategies I'm sharing with you, but the most important part of being able to manage your emotions and other people's emotions is to know your triggers. Now, for those of you who are my amazing subscribers, you know I talk about knowing your triggers all the time. The reason I do that is because many times as leaders, we simply don't know what those triggers are. And the fact that we don't know what those triggers are makes it very difficult for us to be able to respond appropriately when these specific issues and situations come up. How can you know your triggers, you may be asking? The first thing that you can do is get a pen, get a paper, or type it on your phone, whatever is going to work for you, and take a few moments to write down what are those situations, those scenarios that will make you very upset. What are they? Write them down. And those are going to be your triggers. So it's going to be something that comes up that will cause you to be upset. I'll give you an example of a trigger of mine that I had many years ago. I don't have it as much now, but I did when I was practicing as a dentist. When I tend to move pretty fast, and if I don't have things quickly to move fast, I would get frustrated. It is a trigger for me. I do not like going too slow as it relates to working and patience and etc. I want to make sure I'm as efficient as possible. So that's a trigger for me. Therefore, when I know I'm working with somebody that may be a little bit slower, I have to understand that this is a trigger for me. And I have to understand that this person may not be at my speed because I've been doing this for a long time, but they are still learning nonetheless. So figure out what are those things that are going to make you upset, not only in the professional setting, but also personally too. This is something that is very important for you to be able to think about. What are those situations that are going to make you upset? Think about them and develop some very templated responses when those situations come up, so that the next time it happens, you are not going to be furiously upset at somebody. Thank you for the heart emojis, friends. I appreciate that. Let me know what part of the big, beautiful world you all are watching the live from today. And have you ever been in a situation where you felt like your emotions were going to take over you? Let me know in the comments below. Let me know. Let's talk about it. We mentioned about the very first strategy I mentioned to you. And I know my strategies are going to go a little bit in different directions. But the first is to make sure you know your triggers. Know your triggers. Know what's going to make you upset. Because you may be having a conversation with someone and they say that trigger, whatever that trigger is, and you are immediately going to have an emotional reaction that may not reflect the best version of yourself. You don't want to do that. The counter to that is that you may be the person delivering bad information, and the other person may be very, very emotional and getting really upset. What do? A lot of times leaders, I'll tell you this, and this is a secret, many people are trained how to communicate, how to lead people, etc., but they are not trained on how to communicate when someone's crying in front of you. That's why people tend to struggle with emotions that are coming from other people as leaders. If you have never been in a room with someone and they burst out into tears because of something you have said, it will catch you off guard. It will completely catch you off guard, which is the reason why you have to understand what are those triggers, those situations that's going to make you upset. Now, before I go into my next strategy, let me go into the chat. We have Tabassum Amadi. Hello, welcome, welcome. Walker does this. Hello, welcome, welcome. Tabasi says, you are so knowledgeable. Well, thank you, Tabassum. Hope you're doing well today. I appreciate you being here today. If you like this information so far, feel free to take a look at some of my playlists that are on my YouTube channel. This is the only channel on YouTube that talks about high stakes, high pressure communication in a way that will help you to communicate more confidently and concisely under pressure. If you've ever been that person that has frozen in front of a group of people when the room is watching you, or maybe you're in a very highly public role and people are watching everything you're saying, or maybe you're just that person that needs to negotiate a higher salary. Learning how to communicate under pressure is one of the most important skills that any leader can learn how to navigate and to develop. It will give you an unfair, yes, I said unfair, competitive advantage over everybody else if you can communicate under pressure. And this is the only channel on YouTube. I have over 1,000 videos here that will help you to do that. Okay, let me go ahead to the chat. Tabassum says, so kind, you're so kind, I subbed and liked. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you being here. And I go live here at least 7 to 8 times a week. I'm very interactive with my audience. If you have any situations, professional situations that are a bit more challenging, thank you for the heart emojis, friends, that you may be navigating, you're not exactly sure, how can I navigate these situations? What should I say? What should I do? Put them in any of the comments on any of my videos, or you're welcome to contact me on Instagram, LinkedIn. I spend a little bit more time on those two. And of course, YouTube, if it's something you want to tell me privately, and I will do a video just for you to help you any way that I can. If you are a woman in leadership, you're always welcome to contact me at exciteexcellence.org so we can figure out how we can work with each other and help you go to that next level. All right, Sarah Pinot, hello. Hope you're doing well today. I am going to sub. Well, thank you, Sarah. I'm glad that you're here today. Let me know, what are some situations that have came up for you where you felt like your emotions were going to take over? Let me know in the comments below, because it happens to the best of us. It really does. I mentioned emotional intelligence. It's not just you, okay? It's not just how you feel. Your emotions are getting the best of you. What do you do when someone is across the table from you and you're a woman in leadership or you're a man in leadership and you're giving them bad information and they just start crying? What do you do? How do you manage it? That's why you have to know your triggers. You have to know those situations, those circumstances, those problems, those words, those phrases, those facial expressions that are going to make you upset. You got to know that first. It's very, very important. Thank you for the heart emojis, friends. The second strategy I'm going to share with you now, this is a little bit different than what I talked about earlier. So I know I'm going completely in a different direction, but I believe this is the right way I want to guide you all. Read people. It's so important for you to learn how to read people. If you think that you can't read people, I'm here to tell you that you can. You need to subscribe to the channel or work with me directly. I will help you do it. But you can read people, and being able to pick up on their emotions and when they're about to become very emotional, thank you for the smiley faces, will help you to be able to determine how you need to manage your emotions. How many of you have been in this situation where you had a conversation with someone, maybe they became very emotional when you were talking to them as a leader, and you reflected back on it and said, I didn't expect that to happen. How did that happen? This situation occurs a lot, which is the reason why if you take the time to read people, don't just look at people, observe them like I teach you here on my YouTube channel, you will be able to pick up on those very small and subtle cues that come up when someone is about to become very emotional about a topic. It typically, and now there's situations, of course, there's always exceptions to the rule, but it typically does not happen out of nowhere when someone just completely goes off or gets very emotional. You typically will be able to see those very subtle cues if you pay very close attention to how they are communicating with their facial expressions. Thank you for the heart emojis, friends. The third strategy I want to share with you is, we talked about two so far, to help you manage emotional intelligence under pressure as a woman in leadership. Number one, we talked about know your triggers. Number two, I mentioned to you about reading people. Number three, this is a big one. Number three is having the right mindset going into conversations. Now, thank you for the heart emojis and the smiley faces and the celebration caps, friends. I appreciate you. Having the right mindset when you're going into a conversation is very, very important. Now, a lot of times as women, we may be in different roles or different situations where the conversation is already a bit under pressure before we go into it. But it's important for us and for really anyone as leaders, whether you're a woman or a man in leadership, is to go into these conversations not thinking the worst case scenario. Let me give you an example. I have had conversations with many, many people, many leaders, women leaders, men that are leaders, and we've had discussions about conversations where they anticipated that there was a problem. And a lot of times what I notice is that people will sometimes put their own internal biases in their mind, and when they go into conversations, they immediately think of the worst case scenario. For example, if there was a situation with someone and this person specifically tends to perhaps not perform the way they're supposed to as an employee, maybe they're late or they do not complete their task like they're supposed to. I have seen leaders, I've seen managers, I've seen directors, I've seen C-suites go into a conversation already programmed to say, this person's not doing what they're supposed to do, and I'm not going to listen to anything they have to say. Why do I mention this? Because sometimes there may be a legitimate reason as to why things are maybe not being completed the way you'd like for them to be. I'm not here making excuses for anyone, but I have seen how when a leader goes into a conversation, they bring their own emotional thoughts, thank you for the heart emojis, friends, and biases into the conversation, and it makes it to where they're not open-minded about what is actually being said, and they're not listening to whoever the person is. This is how you start to manage your emotions under pressure, because when you're in those situations, and let's say it is an under pressure situation, the person may not be doing the work that you need them to do, but if you go into an already closed mind, you are already putting yourself in a mindset that you have checked out of this conversation before you even checked yourself into the door. And you don't want to do that, because it makes it very, very difficult for you to be able to be empathetic or to at least listen to what the problems are and come up with a solution if you are not in a place where you are having the right mindset about it to begin with. Now, you may be wondering, well, how do I do that? Let me give you some insight here. When you go into those very challenging conversations where there may be people becoming emotional, people may start to become a bit more emotional, these are some things that you want to try to do. Think about the best case scenario. Don't think about the worst case scenario. Oh, this person's doing horrible. Think of the best case scenario. Maybe there is something or some aspect of this task, the situation that you do not know. And so try to learn as much as you can. The next thing I want to share with you is to be as objective as possible and take the emotions out of it. Take the emotions out. Whatever preconceived biases you have about this person, this situation, the circumstances, just throw it away. Just throw it away for the sake of this conversation, because it will help you to be more objective, to take the emotions out of it. This is incredibly important because most of the time, people will respond in a very highly emotional way when it comes to situations and challenges because that's how they feel. That's how they feel. But really good leaders, experienced leaders, the leaders that follow my channel and subscribe to my channel, are the individuals that understand the strength that comes into play when you can handle your emotions under pressure. I want to say hello and welcome to those of you watching the live today. Let me know what part of the big, beautiful world you are joining from today. And have you ever been in a situation where you felt like your emotions were getting the best of you? Put in the comments below. Let's talk about it. I've given you a couple bonuses here as it relates to how you can change your mindset when you go into some of those more challenging meetings. I could definitely go into a lot more detail on that, but I want to make sure I wrap up with the fourth strategy I'm going to share with you today. Thank you for the celebration caps. I appreciate that. Now, the fourth strategy, now this is the reality. Now, we've talked about emotional intelligence, its impact that it has, but there's going to be situations that happen to you as a woman in leadership that will happen to you at some point in your career. And that is the reality of it. I can tell you that for me personally, I've definitely experienced gender bias for sure. I've experienced it not only in positions and roles I've been in, but I've also experienced it as it relates to salary also. Now, many people, when they think of gender bias, they think, oh, especially as it relates to a woman, maybe it could be a man speaking to a woman, or maybe they're making a decision about a woman and choosing a man over the role, or whatever the case may be. It just depends. But that's not only the case. There's situations where women have their own gender bias as it relates to another woman in terms of what they are able to do and not able to do. Or it could be the vice versa. I know we're talking about women in leadership, but I've seen it both ways, where I've seen women have gender biases against men. I have seen it. So this is something that is a reality. The key is to be able to manage your emotions and really pay very, very, very close attention when these situations come up. I'll give you a couple scenarios that I have heard of and I've had people talk to me about, but I want to go to the chat first. Okay, Sarah says, what do I do when someone is peer pressuring me? Just asking. I just want to know if you don't mind. Of course, Sarah, I'm here for you, friend. Thank you so much for the heart emojis. When it depends on the situation, what's going on. But let's talk about peer pressure in general. Peer pressure in general is something that has a negative connotation to it, meaning that when you hear the word peer and you hear the word pressure, your friends, your coworkers, people you work with are pressuring you to do something. When it comes to peer pressure, what do you do? Well, there's a couple of things, and it depends on your age and where you are and etc. in terms of how you manage these situations. If you are on the younger side, then you definitely want to reach out to some of your teachers, your counselors, your parents, anybody in your community that can help you with that. But typically, you have to have a pretty strong mindset of what's right and what's wrong. If you know people are pressuring you to do something and you know that it's wrong, it is really important for you to detract yourself from that situation. So let's say, for instance, someone says, hey, let's go do this or let's go do that, and you know this is bad, don't do it. Then you may say, well, I have something I have to do, or I'm not going to be able to do that, and leave as quickly as you can. People may talk to you and say, why not? I don't understand. But ultimately, you have to detract yourself. So if you are in a pressure situation, even if you are an adult, and people do it also as adults, if you're in a pressure situation, make sure you put yourself in a situation where you are getting out of it as quickly as you can and saying what you need to say and set your boundaries. So having your boundaries, know what's right, know what's wrong, know what you're going to do, know what you're not going to do, it will help you out tremendously as it relates to peer pressure. Okay, we have Bishop Burton. High five, Bishop. Good to see you, friend. It's been a couple days. It's good to see you, Bishop. Bishop says, hi, good evening, Bishop. Yes, good to see you. Appreciate you being here, friend. Sarah says, thank you for helping me. Absolutely. Sarah, you just have to know your boundaries. Know your boundaries and know what's right and know what's wrong. And if you know what's wrong, don't do it. Don't do it. I know it's easier said than done, but if you know something is wrong, think about this the next time someone's trying to peer pressure you, okay? If you do this, whatever they're trying to peer pressure you to do, thank you for the heart emojis, friends. If you do whatever they're trying to get you to do, think about what is going to happen after that. And is it worth it? Most of the time when people are in those situations of being peer pressured, they don't think about what happens later. Believe it or not, this will help you to start thinking more strategically as an individual, because most people go through life just doing whatever they want to do. They don't think ahead as to, if I do this, this could happen. And I'm sharing this with you because I've been a C-suite executive, I've been a director, I've been in senior leadership roles, and I've had to think strategically all the time. And if you can start working on this now, especially as it relates to peer pressure, to say, if I do this, what will happen? It will help you not only in dealing with people that are peer pressuring you, which is completely not okay and not appropriate, but it will actually help you to be a better individual and a better leader, because you are already thinking about strategically, if I do this, then this happens. I'm telling you, what I'm sharing with you right now are topics and situations that people do not talk about here on YouTube, especially in a live format, to really help you start thinking and be able to communicate not only confidently and concisely under pressure, but I'm helping you to change your life and be very strategic. Because, like as I mentioned, many leaders know how to communicate, but when the conversation goes under pressure, they struggle. When they're thinking strategically, they struggle. I don't want you to make mistakes that I've seen a lot of great leaders make over the years. Thank you for the heart emojis, and thank you for the smiley faces. I appreciate you all so much. So we've talked about a couple things. I know Bishop just joined. So Bishop, you know I'm going to go over these for you again, friend, really quickly, because you just joined. There's a couple different ways emotional intelligence impacts us. Emotional intelligence, it's not only our emotions that we are dealing with, but it's also the emotions of the other people across the table or that we're communicating with. There's going to be situations where people may respond emotionally, and we have to learn, how do we navigate it? How do we manage it? What are we supposed to do? The first strategy I share specifically as it relates to emotional intelligence and how to manage it under pressure is to know your triggers. Bishop, I know we've talked about this a lot. You have to know those situations and scenarios that will cause you to become upset. Sometimes you'll be caught off guard. Everybody's caught off guard sometimes. And if you are, you just have to be able to navigate it pretty quickly so that you can get back on guard so you're not caught off guard. But know your triggers is really important. Make sure you learn how to read people. Reading people is critically important. A lot of times you will find those very subtle gestures and subtle things that happen before a conversation goes in a bad direction. Many people do not pay close enough attention to this. I know Bishop Burton has had his fair share of these situations, so Bishop could probably talk about this too. But you have to pay attention to those very subtle nonverbal and verbal cues that will show you this person is about to get really emotional. Number 3, we talked about how it's really important for you to go into any conversation with the right mindset. Think more positively. What's the best outcome that could happen? Do you have to think about the worst outcome? Yes, you do. You need to have that in the back of your mind, but it needs to be in the back of your mind. The front of your mind, at the forefront, should always be, what's the best situation that can come out of this? Make sure that you don't bring your own emotional biases and perceptions issues that you have with a individual or a person into that conversation that could potentially go under pressure because you are more than likely not going to listen to them. We talked about a couple ways to become more objective when you're in those situations and to change your mindset. So you definitely want to watch the replay for that. And then fourth and finally, just because we're talking about women in leadership, there are going to be certain situations and gender biases that you're going to experience in different type of settings. But as I mentioned, women in leadership experience gender biases. Men in leadership sometimes experience gender biases. It can happen both ways. I'll share with you just a couple scenarios that's happened to me both in my life where I've had pay disparities, and if I have time, I'll talk about one more that's not related to pay. I will tell you that when I was in a senior executive role, I'm not going to say which one, I was in a senior executive role and I specifically asked for a salary. Let's say the salary was $100,000. I asked for a salary of $100,000. And when I asked for the salary of $100,000, the person, which was a woman, which happens to be my direct report, said, well, I have to talk to some people about that because they didn't really want to offer, let's say, $100,000. That wasn't the salary. It was more than that. But I'm just saying, just hypothetically speaking. And she said, well, I don't know if I really want to offer that because I have to talk to some people. Okay. So they talked to whoever they needed to speak with, and they ended up giving me $100,000. Now, at the time, I didn't think anything of it. I just negotiated my salary, right? But what I found out that happened, this is a real scenario right here. What I found out later once I started is that even though I was in a senior executive role and I was going to be managing a lot of people, a lot of projects, a lot of buildings and all kinds of things, another person that was a peer was hired that was going to manage, you see this? Nothing at all was going to be paid the same salary that they were going to give me. So if I asked for $100,000, they were going to offer me $90,000. So I was going to be offered $90,000 to manage all this whole nother planet, while another person that was my peer that was going to manage nothing was going to be paid $90,000. Now, do you know how upset and angry I would have been if I did not negotiate my salary? I would have been upset. Why do I mention that? Because it was a woman that I was working, that was actually being the person I was going to report to. That was my boss. Gender biases happen. It's not only just man to woman. It can be woman to woman or woman to man. It happens. I've seen it. I have seen it over the years. Another scenario that happened to me many years ago. Now, this is a little bit different. This is definitely a true gender bias. So when I first started in my journey as being a professional, and I will say this is an old story. So you may have heard it, you may not have heard it. But many years ago, when I was just starting in my career, I have to think of what the salary is. It is going to date me a little bit. But I believe at that time, the salaries coming out of college were about $13 an hour or $12 an hour or something like that. And I applied for a role. I interviewed with another man. He was my boss. He would have been my boss. And I went into it and I said, well, he asked me, well, what do you want to make for your salary? And I said, oh, well, $13 an hour would be fine. And he was like, oh, okay, sure, no problem. Well, when I was in the role, I found out that another man that had no educational background, I happened to have a bachelor's degree, but this individual had no educational background whatsoever, was making $15 an hour compared to me having education, and I was making $13 an hour. Now, that was gender bias for sure, because I did not understand at the time, well, how does he get paid $15 an hour with no education, no degree, and I get paid $13 an hour? Well, some of that was gender bias, yes, but then some of that too was me not negotiating my salary like I would have now. These situations do genuinely happen. Now, all of this is to say that when you are at a point where your emotions are high and you're navigating emotional intelligence under pressure, remember that there are going to be some biases that you are going to experience throughout your professional life. If you're a woman in leadership, you're going to experience them for sure. If you're a man in leadership, you're going to experience them also. It happens. Now, how do you emotionally manage them? That is the reason why you subscribe to the channel, so that you can start learning how to navigate these situations when they come up. I do want to say this. If you are at a place where you know that you need to work on this, maybe you are in a situation where you have a very highly emotional topic that's going on and you're just not sure how can you start to manage your emotions. I would be more than happy to have a conversation with you, and let's talk about what are you navigating and how can we help you to be more positive thinking as it relates to this, so that when you have to talk about this situation, whatever it is, you can do it in a very objective way. I had a client of mine many years ago that was going through a very, very tough professional and personal situation. And every time she would talk about it, she would get really very, very upset. And it's because it was new, it just happened. But sometimes, even if time passes by, it's still something that you don't heal from, and you just still just lash out on people when they ask you about it. But one of the reasons she came to me is because she wanted to find a way for her to be more concise in terms of what she's saying, and not to be so highly emotional, highly explicative of what happened, just to give the basic information someone needs to know. So we worked together for a couple weeks, and she was able to have that same very difficult discussion about her personal and professional life, but in a way to where it was very high level, very concise, very, very calm, more like an executive than someone who was just ranting and raving and struggled with being able to just communicate in a concise way under pressure. This is how working with an executive coach and a consultant will help you, because there are situations that I can only do but so much helping you in front of the World Wide Web. There comes a point in time where you need to get some direct support that is customized to your specific situation. Thank you for the heart emojis, friends. I can't tell you how many of my clients that I've worked with, clients that have been able to negotiate $55,000 salary increases. I've had clients that have not worked for many years and secure multiple six-figure salaries and bonuses and all those things. And a lot of it comes down to there's just some aspect of you that you need some direct support with. So if you're at that point where maybe you're struggling with something, or you may not be struggling with anything, you may know that the way you're communicating, the way you're behaving, the way you're interacting is not the best version of yourself, and is definitely not going to allow you to continue growing in your career. It's a great opportunity to refine how you're communicating and be that person, as I mentioned, that has a very unfair advantage in terms of how they communicate by working with me. We've talked about a lot of scenarios here. We've talked about different ways to manage your emotions under pressure. If you have any topics specifically that you want to learn more about, please let me know in any of the comments. One of the things I tell my audience, for those of you who are new and just subscribed, and even for the individuals that are here often, Bishop Burton, appreciate you being here. Please come to me with the hard things, the hard scenarios, the hard situations that you are dealing with in terms of the professional aspect of things, how you are navigating those situations, because I'm here to support you. Come to me with the hard things. That is my expertise. I do not mind it. It doesn't bother me at all if it's very difficult, because that's just what I'm used to and that's my gift. So if you're dealing with something and you just don't know, well, how should I manage this? What should I do? How should I say it? How should I approach it? That's why I'm here to support you all on your journey. Let me know what question you have. Any platform, you're welcome to reach out to me, and you're always welcome to leave a comment in the comment section. Take a look at the playlists that are on my website. On my YouTube channel, I apologize. We have high stakes fundamentals, executive presence mastery, and I also have another playlist that talks about setting boundaries and handling pushback as a leader. Any of those will give you some insight. As I mentioned, I have over 1,000 videos here, but if you're new to my channel, let me give you a couple of videos to take a look at first. I would look at any video that talks about eye contact, facial expressions, body language, silence in a conversation, managing your emotions under pressure. Those are some very fundamentals, and I would actually probably start there first. Those are fundamentals of high stakes communication. And if you can start learning how to master them and learning as much as you can and start implementing them in your day-to-day conversations, you will be that person that has a very unfair competitive advantage over everybody else. Let me know how I can support you all. I will be live tomorrow evening for Q&A. So if you have some topics specifically, let me know how I can help you, and I will see you all